All right, so it's been about an hour since we mixed our dough. Let's go ahead and take this lid off and see what we got going on. The dough is kind of slumped down, flattened out a bit. It's a little bit less shaggy. It's, still got some work to be done. I've got my 8 grams of salt weighed out here, and we're gonna need to weigh out a little bit of water. It works out to be 1 tablespoon of water, or 15 grams. So yeah, we're gonna sprinkle this salt on top. Okay. And for the sake of having a scale, we're just gonna weigh out 15 grams here. This is about, this temperature water isn't that critical. You don't want it cold, you don't want it hot. So it's probably mid 70s, mid 80s, but that's close enough. There's my 15 grams. So I'm gonna go ahead and dump this in. Get my scale out of the way. And now what we're gonna do is we are gonna just sort of try to dimple that salt and water in. So we talked about why we withhold the salt, but you might be wondering, why are we withholding this little bit of water? And the main reason is that having this bit of water going in with the salt at this stage helps to dissolve the salt and have it integrate more evenly into the dough. So I'm just gently dimpling with my fingertips, rotating the bowl so I get even action here. You notice there's a bit of water kind of pooling around the outside of the dough, so I'm trying to make sure I work that part towards the middle. I'm going to continue this type of action until there's no real big puddles of water, no obvious puddles of water. Okay, so my dough is still wet on top. It's a little bit of obvious wetness, but there's no real standing puddles of water. So at this point, I'm gonna work my hand under the dough all the way around so that it's no longer stuck to the bottom. So my dough is free. I could pick it up if I wanted to. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stretch the top of the dough away and over into the middle. I can turn my bowl 180, and I'm gonna do the same thing. Okay, and now I want to do the left over the right as well. So what we're doing is we're layering in that one surface of the dough that had the water and the salt, and so we're creating layers, which will then hopefully lead to even distribution of the salt and the water. Just kind of spread this down into a bit more of a flat pancake again. And now this is what I like to call the working sides. This is where all the edges of the dough are going towards the middle. So I'm going to actually flip my working side of the dough towards the bottom, down in the bowl. And so this is my outside surface of the dough. And so here we're actually going to use 2 hands. Get this hand a little bit wet. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift, and what I'm trying to do is get a little bit of coiling action. So hopefully you can see, I'm gonna do it from 2 directions. So first direction, I'll do it here. So I'm gonna let that far into the dough, droop down, and I'm gonna kind of tuck it underneath. Maybe I'll do that twice, and now I've got this tail on the back end. I'm gonna lift, and I wanna try to swing it and tuck it underneath my dough. So I kind of made like I rolled it up like a rolled carpet, and now I've got a log this way. And maybe this will be helpful to illustrate. So I'm going to come around the side here, tap this down a little bit, see if I can flatten it out. And then I'm going to do one more coiling action in this other direction. So the first time we coiled it this way, and now we're going to coil it this way. You don't need to initially move your whole body to the side. You could just turn the bowl, but I want to show you from this angle. So we're going to pick up the dough, let that far end droop down, and let it tuck underneath. And here maybe we're just going to do that first tuck. I'm going to grab right in the middle, supporting that tuck we just made, lift, and so I have this tail here, swing it, and I want to tuck that underneath. So all my working side of the dough is on the bottom of the bowl now. Notice how much smoother the dough is than when we started, and it should have just a little bit of a sticky feel to it, and that's right where we want it. So it's wanting to stick to me, but I can also kind of snap my hand off and it doesn't come with me. So the edge of the bowl is pretty clean. I've got my scraper here. I'm just gonna scrape down the sides while I've got the scraper handy so we don't build up any crust there. And just gonna rotate the dough a little bit. My flap over here was hanging out and I didn't want my dough to sort of unravel this way. So what I did is I shifted it so that flaps more on the underside. So that's where we're gonna leave it for the next half an hour until we come back for turn 1.